Today, we were considering reforms to the retirement system for federal employees along with postal naming and resolutions. H.R. 1256, I now call up H.R. 1256, the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act. This bill primarily grants the Food and Drug Administration the authority to regulate tobacco products, and these provisions were approved by the Committee on Energy and Commerce earlier this month. Title IV of the bill includes modernization of the Thrift Savings Plan, the retirement savings plan for federal employees under the jurisdiction of this committee. The Federal Employees Thrift Savings Plan is one of the best retirement saving programs in the nation. The plan runs with very low cost and is a model for both the private sector and other governments. This, while TSP has been a model plan, it was created over 20 years ago and has not been updated in many years. The bill before us today will strengthen and modernize TSP. The bill enjoyed strong bipartisan support in the last Congress and was reported by this committee on a voice vote. First, at the suggestion of the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board, the bill provides for automatic enrollment in TSP for new federal employees. Employees have the opportunity to choose whether to enroll or not, but for those who do not make any decision, enrollment would be the default. The bill would also allow the inclusion of Roth contribution option for TSP. Under current practice, employee contributions to the TSP are made before taxes, and employees pay taxes on their retirement funds when they withdraw them. In a Roth option, employees' contributions are made after taxes are deducted, and the employee does not pay taxes on the funds upon withdrawal. This option would be attractive to federal employees at both the lower and upper ends of the wage scale, and is currently available in many private sector retirement plans. The bill also gives the board the authority to add additional investment options if it determines that such options would be in the interest of the participants, and after consultation with effective employee representatives. The cost of these options would also have to be borne solely by those employees using them. Finally, the bill includes a provision to allow employees covered by the Federal Employees Retirement System to receive credit for unused sick leave towards their retirement annuity. As it is currently the case of employees covered by the older civil service retirement system, the change is intended to address the related problems of absenteeism and lost productivity in federal agencies that result from current use it or lose it approach to sick leave under the FERS system. This is a solid bill, will enhance the investment options of federal employees, and it has my support. This is not a new bill. It was approved in this committee by a voice vote in the last Congress and incorporated into the tobacco bill that passed the House last year with bipartisan support. So I hope we can continue to move forward on this bill today. I ask unanimous consent that H.R. 1256 be considered as read and open for amendment at any time without objections so ordered. I yield to the ranking member of this committee, the gentleman, Congressman Issa from the great state of California.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And from one great state to another, I guess, when you look at New York and California. I want to thank you for bringing this bill up today. I must admit that I would have preferred more hearings on the underlying amendments. And as you know, we both started new as chairman and ranking member. So although this was considered and used in the last Congress, I think there's an opportunity to do better on every piece of legislation we bring up, and hope that we'll have time for more hearings. I'm going to candidly oppose this bill at the end, although I believe it has some merit in many ways. One of the reasons is that I think it has become a piggy bank. A number of the amendments and the actual use by another committee for the tobacco control comes at the expense of a proposed savings. One of my challenges is that, as I understand it, dynamic scoring was used, assuming that a Roth IRA would be used and thus would move forward available funds, meaning no new money is really generated. You simply get your tax revenue earlier and have less of it later. There are two problems with that. It doesn't, on a net basis, create any new money, because when those people retire, they, by definition, will not pay taxes where they otherwise would have. But additionally, we're assuming a certain type of behavior. It may not be well received, and as a result, the Roth option may not be used nearly at the level calculated. More importantly, a number of amendments, some of which I will accept and some of which I object to, in fact, make certain assumptions on a static scoring basis. For example, if you are going to allow full-time retirement benefits for people only working part-time, you can't score it on the effect of the number of part-time people in the federal service today. You have to score it based on human behavior, the likelihood that this is an attractive option for people who have worked perhaps 20 years, who would now like to work part-time for the next 5, 10, or 20 years, but receive full-time benefits. This, I suspect, will strongly encourage people to go from full-time to part-time if, in fact, they can either start another business, begin another life, or simply enjoy the same retirement benefits without working full-time. It is not that we might not consider a piece of legislation to encourage people to remain on, even if part-time. It's that it doesn't belong as a cost in this bill, scored on a fixed basis and likely to grow either some or a great deal. Mr. Chairman, I recognize that that this bill has been up before. I would expect my two amendments to be non-controversial. One is particularly important, and that is that at the current time, the U.S. military is the only part of the federal government that does not receive a TSP match. As a result, you and I receive a 3% match on our TSP contributions, wherever we choose to put them. The U.S. military does not. As a result, the automatic "you're in unless you willfully opt out" may not be as appropriate to men and women in uniform who are getting no match. Let's remember, Mr. Chairman, it's their money. So I will be offering a rather uncontroversial amendment that says that they must opt in, and their default for their money will be their decision. Now, I would encourage young men and women in uniform, and not so young men and women in uniform, to give to TSP for its tax advantages, even though it does not have a match at this time. My second amendment will be to study and to ask for a report back on the viability and availability of correcting this error and bringing about equality in all federal workers, including the military. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for your understanding and cooperation in working out some of the details.
Would the gentleman yield?
Of course. Well, actually, it's only an opening statement. The chair can yield.
No,
yield
you
back.
can ask, request your
I just
time.
have a question. That's
Yeah.
right.
Any other members who would like to speak on the bill? All right. I'd be delighted to yield to the gentleman from Virginia.
Just a question of the ranking member. I believe CSRS does not have a match either in TSP. Is that not correct? If you're in CSRS, I don't think there's a match for your TSP.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
He's correct.
I look forward to supporting the member's amendment.
We're in the first, yeah.
Any other members who would like to speak on the bill? Yes, gentleman from Georgia.
If I could, I would just like to ask a couple of questions about the bill, if I can, and maybe Mr. Isa would yield me some time and be willing to answer these questions, or you,
I'd be
Mr. Chairman.
delighted to yield to the gentleman.
It's your time.
Your time.
Okay. Well, I direct my question to anybody that might know the answer, but if I understand it correctly from what I'm reading, and that we're funding this, whatever the name of the stop smoking bill is, with the thrift savings plans from the federal employees. Is that correct? That's what we're partially funding the bill with?
Yeah, if I be chosen to answer, yes. The monies that you get here are from the calculation that if we give a Roth IRA option, meaning a post-tax option, that it will create tax revenue because people will pay those taxes before depositing into their TSP. To the extent they do, that creates a pool of money. Understand that it will be people's options, and so the estimate here is an estimate I don't happen to agree with.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, you're back? Yeah, thank you. Okay. The question, I now recognize the gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Van Hollen, to offer an amendment. Mr. Van Hollen from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk would designate the amendment.
Amendment to H.R. 1256, offered by Mr. Van Hollen of Maryland. Add at the end of the following.
If I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the amendment be dispensed
Without
with.
objection, the amendment is considered as read.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
gentleman from
Chairman.
Maryland is recognized for 5 minutes to explain his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you and the ranking member, Mr. Issa. I believe that this amendment has been reviewed on both sides, and there are no objections. And so what I'd like to do is just provide a brief summary for the members of it and not go into a lot of detail unless people have questions. This is designed to correct an injustice in the retirement plan for federal employees that was inadvertently created many years ago, back in 1990, when Congress in the rush of business passed legislation that essentially changed the rules of the game on a small number of federal employees. In fact, this is designed to correct injustice that affects, as I understand it, about 257 people, approximately. And very briefly, what happened was back then when Congress passed the bill, it changed the terms for federal employees when they re-enter federal service, if they chose to do so. For example, you could take your money out of retirement, and under the old rules, you could return to the government without having replacing those funds without having to pay interest. Those rules were changed in 1990, but there were a lot of people who were caught up in a period between October 1, 1990 and February 28, 1991, who essentially made important life decisions based on the old law before the new rules had been promulgated. And so they essentially made major decisions based on what the law had been prior to the promulgation of those rules. And this is just designed to put them in the same place they would have been under the law that they were operating under at the time before the regulation. So it's just to cover a few people in that month period. It's long overdue. It's a classic case of where there's a large unfairness created because it only impacts a few people. It hasn't gotten the attention to get through. So I thank the chairman and the ranking member for addressing this issue now.
I thank the gentleman from Maryland. Of course, let me say I support this amendment. This amendment corrects an unintended consequence of previous reforms that adversely affect a small number of federal employees, and I support correcting this problem. Does the ranking member have a statement on the Van Hollen amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I would concur. This is a technical correction, relatively de minimis in cost and long overdue, and would support it.
Any other members would like to be heard on the amendment? The question is on the Van Hollen amendment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposes? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted.
Okay.
Does the ranking member have a statement, an amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk. Take the opt-in amendment, please.
Clerk would designate the amendment.
Amendment to H.R. 1256.
Objection, the amendment is considered as read. The gentleman from California is recognized for 5 minutes on his amendment. Gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment, I believe, will be non-controversial. I would have preferred, obviously, that we not only create an opt-in, but that we also create a matching fund, but that's to be done at some later date. This is broadly accepted and encouraged by Department of Defense because they believe that since there is no matching fund and because of the economic limitations of some of the young soldiers, sailors, and Marines, that this would be a better way, rather than automatically taking 3% from our men and women in uniforms, that in fact we would produce an opt-in opportunity. I'm sure we all realize that although some money would not end up in TSP, that it would still be an informed decision by the Department of Defense. And obviously I think this is the reason, although you're right, there are some exceptions, but not in FERS. This would be partially because they currently don't have a matching fund, and would encourage everyone to support it. Yield back.
This amendment gives the service secretaries authority to decide what is best for the troops, and I support it. Any other?
Mr. Chairman?
Gentleman from Virginia.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to support the amendment. I think it's a thoughtful amendment. I had the privilege of traveling with Mr. Lynch and Mr. Platts to Iraq and Afghanistan. I think this is going to be a big boost of morale for our fighting men and women overseas. Thank you.
Any other? The question is on the ISA amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. I understand we have workforce subcommittee. Mr. Lynch also has an amendment to offer. I have them. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I believe I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment to H.R. 1256, offered by Mr. Lynch of Massachusetts. At the end of the following, Section 408.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 5 minutes on his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the ranking member. Mr. Chairman, I'm offering this amendment, currently Title II of H.R. 1263, the Federal Retirement Reform Act of 2009, which was introduced on March 3, 2009, to allow federal employees working to work part-time at the end of their careers without penalty. Apparently, in 1986, we enacted a law to alleviate a problem, but in fact created another one. Federal employees who work on a part-time basis at the end of their careers receive a reduction in their annuity computation. Employees' full-time salaries are not applied to the annuity calculations for services performed prior to 1986. Instead, their part-time salary earned is used for computing the high three years. As a result, the value of pre-1986 service in the annuity computation is significantly greater if the employee works full-time at the end of their career. This is an anomaly, and it was unintended. My amendment would simply permit the use of the high three average salary computations for full and part-time work, whether the work was performed before or after 1986. It eliminates the adverse effect of part-time service performed during the latter part of an employee's career, and provides a simplified annuity computation in cases involving part-time service. A bill identical to this, an amendment similar to this, identical to this, was included last year in a bill 2780, which was introduced by Representative James Moran of Virginia and passed the committee by voice vote in the last Congress. And I am told by my conversations with Mr. Moran that he's been filing this or similar legislation for at least 10 years. And we've had this scored, and unlike the tobacco provision in the central part of the bill, this is actually a benefit to federal employees resulting from their own contributions to the tax base by virtue of their Roth IRA contributions. So I think it's entirely appropriate. And I'm also told that Mr. Davis, the former chair and ranking member of this committee, was a co-sponsor of this measure as well. I yield back.
Thank you very much. I now yield to the ranking member of the committee, Mr. Issa.
Well, I thank the chairman. I thank the gentleman. Mr. Lynch, I regrettably will not be supporting this amendment, not because it's not well intended, but because at $63 million or more, and with some questions about, again, the behavioral, the whole question of it's not a static amount, it's an amount that could grow, I'm not sure that it should be considered as part of this bill. Having said that, given that those hurdles were met, I certainly would believe that this is good legislation and as a separate bill should be considered. And beyond that, I apologize not to be able to support it, but to a great extent, this bill has underlying pay-go problems that I don't believe we know how much we're going to receive with any accuracy, and it appears as though we're spending more than we're going to get. But sans those problems, I would be happy to support legislation in another manner. And we yield back.
Thank you very much.
May I respond?
Be delighted to.
I yield whatever time I have.
Gentleman yields.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we had some scoring a while back. We've asked again for the amendment to be scored based on our most recent numbers. It is expected that the Roth IRA, because that brings a lot of all these federal contributions coming in and being taxed at today's tax rates, will bring in approximately $1.8 billion over the next 5 to 10 years. This measure that I'm introducing would cost, in the 5-year analysis, $18 million, and in the 10-year analysis, $68 million. But this is one of the most fiscally sound parts of this bill. It is thoroughly paid for by federal employees. It eliminates an inequity between employees who work part-time at different times of their career. There should be no difference as to when you work part-time. As a matter of fact, our investigations have disclosed that a lot of the workers who are being penalized here are actually women in the federal employment who work part-time at the end of their career. And I dare say that in the current economy, we are going to see more of this. We see folks whose TSP is way down. The economy is hurting. Families are struggling. They might have a spouse that is not earning what they used to. So I think that the trend will require workers to work longer, and often those employees are going to work part-time at the end of the career. So and if you compound that by saying we're actually having a crisis of sort, trying to keep our best employees in federal government, this would also, removing that penalty for workers working part-time at the end of their career will actually help us in the long run. So that's basically the scoring end of this, and I think the common sense justification for the amendment.
Okay, and if I could reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman, the gentleman makes a very good point, and as I said, I don't inherently disagree with this. If this amendment passes, if we could work together on both Mr. Van Hollen's and Mr. Lynch's amendments to make sure that they were the first dollars in this bill, then we would have no pay-go complaints, because it's not that we doubt that there will be some funds, and if these are the first two parts of the bill, at least we can try to make them the first two parts of the bill, then I would be more than happy to support them, because I believe there's enough money in this to pay for both of their sensible amendments, and I would hope the gentleman would be able to support that.
I'd like the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I simply express support for the Lynch amendment. It's my position that if individuals are allowed to work part-time, then they should do so without impunity. And so if you're going to work, don't punish the person for working. And so I support the Lynch amendment and yield back the balance of my time.
I would like to briefly respond to the ranking member. I understand his concerns and would like to work together to address them. However, I do feel we need to move forward on this amendment today. There are several committees with an interest in the tobacco bill that we are considering, and we do have unlimited time. We do not have unlimited time to report our language. I am afraid that if we delay this amendment, we will lose an opportunity to make a solid improvement that will enhance the efficiency of the federal government. And of course, this is language that has previously been approved by the committee on a bipartisan voice vote. So I would propose to the ranking member that we gather more information, perhaps hold hearings, so we can refine this language as it goes to the floor or through the Senate. But I will urge all members to support this amendment today. Do any other members wish to be heard on the amendment? The question is on the Lynch amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted.
Chairman? Just two.
I recognize the ranking member, Mr. Issa, to offer an amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk would designate the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Issa to H.R. 1256. Add at the end of the following, Section 408A.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read. The gentleman from California is recognized for 5 minutes to explain his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for working together on a bipartisan basis to develop a solution to a concern that we both have, and that is that our men and women in uniform are treated disproportionately poorly when it comes to TSP. Although they're allowed to contribute, they are not allowed to get a match, or they do not presently get a match. Recognizing that this bill has a relatively limited amount of dollars, even on the high side, and that TSP match could end up being many, many billions of dollars over 10 years. I appreciate the chairman's willingness to work on this amendment on a bipartisan basis so that we could get that amount figured out and reported back to us in a reasonable fashion. Additionally, task the leaders of the military at DOD to begin looking at how we can do more and better for our men and women in uniform, something that you and I share. I think it's non-controversial, and at the same time, it will lead to further hearings and the possibility of us doing something significantly better for the retirement of our men and women in uniform. And in closing, what I would hope that all of us, both those of us who served in the military and those who didn't, will realize is that the vast majority of people who enter the military serve for far less than their 20 years. They serve just their 4, 5, 6 years. TSP is what they take with them. They do not take with them a pension. So because the vesting in a military pension is 20 years, I think it's all the more important that we begin looking at what someone can take with them if, in fact, they're not both physically able to and, of course, chosen to remain on for a full career. Urge support and yield back.
Anyone else like to speak on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I thank the gentleman.
The ranking member of Armed Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
From New York.
I just, more importantly, from New York. Go ahead, Mr.
The great state.
I just wanted to thank my friend from California, the distinguished ranking member of this distinguished committee for this effort. Clearly, as he stated, I know we all share the interest in trying to ensure that we can provide those benefits and those support programs for our brave men and women in uniform that are absolutely essential and that they've worked and oftentimes given so much in pursuit of, and I think this is an important part of it. We don't know what the TSP mandatory match would cost, but the last time it was scored, it was in excess of $20 billion. It's a lot of money, and it's a lot of money to a military that across the board is so hard-pressed, but it is a critical component of providing the same kind of benefits and same kind of programs that we so generously and rightfully provide to other federal employees. So as we proceed in consideration of this vital issue, I think this amendment is not just appropriate, it's absolutely essential to helping us make the right decisions for all parties involved. And again, with a final word of thanks to the gentleman for offering it, I would yield back. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I agree with the goals of the gentleman's amendment that we should provide top-notch retirement benefits to our uniformed military personnel. This amendment will require a report from DOD, which will be helpful as we go forward. Of course, do any other members wish to be heard? So the question now is on the ISA amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposes? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. I recognize the gentle lady from the District of Columbia, Mrs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Tom Davis and I introduced this bill before.
Is she have an amendment at the desk? Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
Then
you.
the clerk will designate the amendment. And with the gentlewoman, is a mic on?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. I guess I'm just hard of hearing.
I will try to speak up, Mr. Chairman. This is a bill that we entitled the District of
Will the clerk
Columbia.
designate the amendment?
Amendment to H.R. 1256 offered by Ms. Norton at the end of the following new title. Title 5.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read. Ms. Norton is recognized for 5 minutes to explain her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill, the District of Columbia Courts and Justice Technical Corrections Act, is just that. It is an error that no one saw at the time that certain employees of the District of Columbia were transferred to the federal government as a result of the Revitalization Act, which transferred certain responsibilities which were once the financial responsibility of the federal government to the federal government. This bill does not go to the annuity issue, but it does go to an issue just as important to these employees that we call credible service. The number of years that they put into service as district employees are now not counted as a result of their transfer to the federal side. These are employees of such agencies as the Court Services Act. It's a federal agency. I'm sorry, it's a federal agency. The injustice here is that no one foresaw that the number of years and therefore the annuity that they are entitled to from the District of Columbia would have any effect upon their federal service. They are going to get their annuity for the services in the District of Columbia, but now they come under FERS. And the problem that they're having now is they will still get their annuity if they are willing to work as if they were beginning all over again here without getting credit for the many years they served in the District of Columbia. A transfer from the District of Columbia to the federal government should not result in the loss of your time, and that is all this bill is about. So you have people who could have retired some years ago who are still serving because they have lost the time they have already given as public servants. This bill simply would correct the loss of time. It has created a huge and unintended injustice, and I ask for your support on this bill.
I agree.
I yield back for the time being, Mr. Chairman.
I agree with the gentlelady from the District of Columbia. I support this amendment. It is correcting an unintended consequence of the transfer of functions between the District of Columbia and the federal government years ago. Unfortunately, the retirement plans of some employees were adversely affected, and I hope we can correct this problem. Does the ranking member have a statement on the Norton Amendment?
Well, yes, I do, briefly. Mr. Chairman, I support this amendment, and it is yet another example of the unintended consequences when we do legislation in ways that would be in the business world, unacceptable. Obviously, there should have been a better checklist of contracts and agreements, retirements, all the other items that go into the complex business of running a city or running a court. So I think the gentlelady has done not only her constituents but the American people a great service by recognizing that this should have been done right initially, that there should have been appropriate transfers or reserves in order to make sure that people would know what they were getting at the time of the transfers. Having said that, for all of us here on the dais, we've watched a series of things happen over the years in which the District of Columbia takes what it can get, often not getting what it should. And so I appreciate the gentlelady's undying efforts to make sure that these injustices are rooted out and taken care of. We will be supporting this amendment as sensible and long overdue. Yield back.
Thank you very much. Thank the gentleman from California. Any other? Yeah.
If I could respond and thank the ranking member for his statement, I'd also like to indicate that
I'd yield.
He has to yield.
I'll yield the remainder of my time.
Okay. Yeah.
I thank the gentleman for his explanation, and especially for his understanding that the error here was the error of the government itself that we're trying to correct. I do want to say that I feel very responsible for these employees, but the great bulk of them do not live in my district. The great bulk of them live in the region, but this is a subcommittee and a committee that recognizes all of these employees, wherever they live, as federal employees, and this should be corrected wherever they live when the injustice is unintentionally created by the federal government itself. And I thank the gentleman very much for his approach to this bill.
Thank you very much. Any other members wish to be heard on the amendment? The question is on the Norton amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposers, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted.
One more and we get out of here.
One more, where is it? I recognize the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Connolly, to offer an amendment.
I thank the chair, and I should have mentioned when I was talking about our trip to Iraq and Afghanistan, my good friend Steve Driehaus was also with us. I was thinking of the chairman and the ranking member at the time, but Steve obviously contributed greatly to that trip and our understanding of the region. I have an amendment at the desk, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the amendment.
Amendment to
I'd
HR
ask unanimous consent that further
1256.
reading of the amendment be dispensed with, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, in the spirit of the ranking member, in terms of trying to maybe right an injustice and to have more equity in how we treat our federal workforce, this amendment essentially allows federal employees who are under the FERS system, who retire early and receive a refund of their FERS contributions, to be able to re-enter civil service. Right now they are prohibited from doing so. Under the civil service retirement system, of which I'm a member, and I'm facing this right now, I do have the option of being able to repay the money I took out of the system 20 years ago with interest, and I also have the option of not doing that and still being vested and qualifying. Mr. Chairman, in 10 years, 90% of the civil service federal executives will be 50 years of age or older. 40% of the entire federal workforce will be eligible for retirement because they're baby boomers over the next 5 to 10 years. We need to be looking at mechanisms for trying to make federal service more attractive and to facilitate that service. This legislation has been endorsed by the Federal Managers Association, the National Federation of Federal Employees, the Nurses Organization of Veterans Affairs, among others. It's been introduced in the last 3 Congresses on a bipartisan basis, supported by Congressman Frank Wolf, Congressman Jim Colby, in the last Congress by Congressman Frank Wolf, Congressman Jim Moran, and Congressman Eric Cantor of Virginia. I'm pleased to be an original co-sponsor of it in this Congress. It has been scored at $59 million by CBO, fully covered by the cost of the bill in front of us. Mr. Lynch made the point that we're looking at $1.8 billion in terms of the revenue generated by the underlying provisions of this bill. So this is more than covered in terms of pay-go. But I believe this is a simple act of equity for our federal workforce. It gives them another option. It treats FERS employees the same way those of us under CSRS are treated. And I believe long-term, it's another mechanism, it's another tool for ensuring quality workers in the federal workforce, especially as we move out to the future. I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, gentleman from Virginia. I support this amendment. In order to recruit the most capable and talented workforce, the federal government should not create barriers to former federal employees who wish to return to the federal service. Mr. Connolly's amendment would make it easier for experienced federal workers to return by allowing them to pay to reinstate their retirement contributions. This is a system that has worked well for employees under the CSRS system, and it makes sense to extend it to employees under the modern FERS system. Does the ranking member have a statement on the Connolly amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do. And in general, I agree with the gentleman that we need to find a common way of treating all people we want to return to service. I, too, was able to buy back my U.S. military service, and it clearly enhances a potential retirement for me. So I realize that we have not been treating all people equally, and as the gentleman said, we do want to encourage the best and the brightest to be recruitable. Having said that, I have a number of concerns. First of all, this amendment is identical to H.R. 828, which has been introduced in various forms since the 107th Congress, a total of 5 Congresses. My concern really is that it has not had a single hearing. We are the Committee of Jurisdiction for 5 Congresses. This bill, although noteworthy today, seems to have been neglected. If this amendment is allowed today, I have only 2 concerns. One, that it may, when it receives a final score, have a pay-go problem. And 2, more importantly, I would hope that the chairman and to the same extent, us, that we would dedicate more time to hearings on bills and initiatives like this, because the idea that something has been around for nearly 10 years, broadly supported, clearly an inequity of one type of individual versus another, would not have had a hearing bothers me. So, although I have concerns about the pay-go, not based on its current score, but based on the likely total revenue, I recognize that the lack of action by this committee over 5 Congresses is something that the chairman and I have to take seriously and learn from what we're seeing here today, which is, if this is such a good idea, why didn't we do something about it in the last 10 years? Why didn't we hold hearings on it and bring this matter to the fore before that? Having said that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that you and I are here now. It's our job to move things and to hold hearings on our watch, even if they weren't held on others. And with that, I would yield back.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I would yield to the gentleman my remaining time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate the point made by the ranking member. Lord knows why we didn't have hearings. I wasn't here. My predecessor was. He's behind you on the wall there. But we have just adopted a number of amendments. Yeah. And a fine picture it is. We have just adopted a series of amendments. Mr. Lynch pointed out, for example, in his amendment, that it also has been around for 10 years. And we felt, the time has come, it's ripe. It's not a lot, there aren't a lot of unknowns about these subjects, and this is a vehicle, and this is the time to try to clean up some of that business and take action. So while I generally would agree with the ranking member that the regular order is let's have a hearing on something before we act on it, I don't think the issues we're dealing with right now are of such great magnitude that they violate that general principle. And I really do think this is an equitable issue with respect to our workforce. We have an opportunity to address and to address now.
And reclaiming my time, since the gentleman, I guess, knew of my predecessor, or his predecessor, one thing that we've learned here that I think you'll appreciate is when something leaves this committee, it's not law. So I would hope that we would hold specific hearings based on the fact that will be necessary as this bill goes to the floor. It then goes to the Senate. We then try to conference it potentially. As you know, this bill did not become law in the last Congress, so I would hope the gentleman and all of us on both sides won't miss the opportunity to look at this and other issues in the next month, recognizing that this is not likely to become law in the next month.
If the gentleman would yield?
I'd yield.
I would be glad to cooperate with the gentleman in trying to organize such.
Did the gentleman yield for?
I'd yield to the gentleman from Utah.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Conley's intent here, and I appreciate his recognition that it would be regular order to actually have a hearing and go through that process. My being a freshman as well, I would appreciate such an opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to have such a hearing and truly fully understand the full scope of what would happen, what would be the implications both positively and negatively. And I appreciate the recognition that that would be regular order, and I would appreciate if the committee would move that direction. I reject this amendment. Thank you.
Okay. And I yield back.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me say that after the comments about these photos, I'm not sure I want to hang my picture.
You want to know who you displace when you hang yours?
Thank you. I believe in that this amendment is similar to the Lynch amendment as one that should move forward today. I will work with the ranking member to see if we can address any unintended consequences that he identifies as we move forward. But we do not want to lose what may be our best opportunity to move forward on this important reform. I encourage all members to support the Conley amendment. The question is on the Conley amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposes?
No.
The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. I believe this is the last amendment to this bill. Are there any other amendments? I now move the Committee on Oversight and Government Reforms, the report H.R. 1256 to the House as amended. With the recommendations that the bill do pass, the question is on favorably reporting H.R. 1256 to the House. All those in favor say aye. All opposes? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion is agreed to, and H.R. 1256 is ordered reported as amended. The next order of business is 3 postal naming bills. I ask unanimous consent that these resolutions be considered in block and as read and open to amendment at any time. The resolution include H.R. 774, introduced by Representative Carolyn Maloney. This bill designates a facility of the United States Postal Service located in Long Island City, New York, as the Geraldine Ferraro Post Office Building. H.R. 1397, introduced by Representative Nita Lowy. This bill designates a facility of the United States Postal Service located in Rye, New York, as the Caroline O'Day Post Office Building. H.R. Res. 223, introduced by Representative John Sullivan. This measure commemorates the life, achievement, and contribution of Paul Harvey, affectionately known for his signature line, "This is Paul Harvey, good day." I have a manager's amendment at the desk on this bill that makes some changes we have agreed on, and I ask unanimous consent that the amendment be adopted and considered at the base text. Without objection, so ordered. These are all worthy measures, and I urge their adoption. Does the ranking member have any comments on these great bills that are named after these great individuals?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've reviewed the postal namings and the resolutions and find them to meet the requirements of the committee, and that's the rest of the story.
Do any other members want to speak on the bills? I ask unanimous consent that the measures previously described be reported favorably by the committee. Without objection, so ordered. This concludes our business for today. I ask unanimous consent that the staff be authorized to make technical and conforming changes to all matters ordered reported. Without the objection, so ordered. The committee stands adjourned. Good.